And once the interest rate cuts take place, the signal to those that understand how money works, how the global cash flows operate, and what the U.S. is really signaling, they're throwing in the white towel and they're saying, we're done. We are going to cut interest rates and we don't care what happens to the dollar anymore.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials from March 18th through March 25th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature 2023 1-ounce Silver Krugerrands at $3.10 over spot. We also have backdated 1/10-ounce gold Canadian maples at $35 over melt with a minimum order of 4. And finally, we're offering our choice 1-ounce Palladium bars at just $119 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is our good friend David Morgan from the Morgan Report. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be back, Elijah. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you, especially during this exciting and volatile time in the precious metal markets. We're recording this on Thursday. Yesterday, we saw gold above 2,200 and now sharply down. Silver was getting close to 26. Now it's below 25. Your take on just, I guess, the rally we've seen over the last month or so, and also just the volatility that investors have had to stomach.
Yeah, there's not a lot to comment on. I mean, it speaks for itself. The new high, of course, is really great for gold. And whenever you get a new high in a commodity or even a stock, I mean, it'll go higher and higher. I've explained many times about, upward resistance. And when it is a new high, that's very bullish because everyone says, well, how high is it going to go? So there's not much selling pressure, or any new buying pressure pushes it higher. But at some point, there's what's called a consolidation, or we call it back and filling. These are slang terms that mean that it hits a certain level and then it may fall off and rebuild a base and then move higher. And there's all kinds of charting patterns. You can look at a bull flag, a flagpole. I mean, there's all these terms, and a lot of them have high probabilities, but nothing's guaranteed. So having said all that, I'm very glad to see gold making new highs. And also, some of the mainstream media articles are almost humorous to me, like, we didn't expect this, or how come it's happening, or why is this taking place, and no reason to this, and on it goes. And it's simply buying pressure. I mean, there's been so much buying pressure from the central banks. And as I said, if you're unwilling to sell, any new buying pressure will push the price higher. So there's gold. I'm glad it's leading. Probably needs to take a breather here. My forecast in January was we'd see at least a 13% move in gold, based on a 13% for 2024, based on the 13% we saw in 2023. And that, came in around 2,000-ish. So 10% is 200. So, 10% is already and we're not in the season, really, the seasonality for gold that's the strongest. We'll move into that shortly, and then we're going to go into the summer doldrums, which usually is weak for the metals, but there are times it's not always. It's just a probability. As far as silver is concerned, again, I'll use the word I used last time, frustrating. I mean, it's not keeping up with gold, and last week it actually outperformed in a weekly basis. I know that's a very small data point, Elijah, but gold was up, I think, 6% or 5%, and silver was up like 13%. But here we are, several percent in one day. But it will, I still think, and not because of my bias towards silver, which I have, but the dynamics of silver are still so fundamentally strong. And there's so much push for this green movement. And then it's the poor man's gold. And I don't mind using that term, because if gold gets at a certain level, there'll be people that want to get into precious metals, and they'll look at their savings account and they'll say, I really want to buy gold. I mean, a lot of them make the statement, or the thought process, I want to buy gold. Gold's at $3,000 an ounce now. Silver's only at $30 an ounce. You know what? I'm going to buy silver. I'm going to get a lot more for my money. And that's sort of the penny stock game too. I mean, there's a lot of people that are not very sophisticated in the stock market, and really they'd be a lot better off with like one share of, pick IBM or something, rather than 100,000 shares of XYZ mining at 0.01 cent per share. But it makes them feel good having all those shares. They feel good because they own so much. So silver, you could put it in the same bed. Those are not a real good analogy, but you get my point that there's a certain trade-off as far as cost goes with the precious metals. And another one, and I'm in it, and I'm very biased now because I have a pretty good position. That's in the platinum market. I mean, platinum really hasn't participated in this move very much, but it's 15 times scarcer than gold, and it's half the price. So if it just gets par with gold, which it may not, but if it did, I mean, you'd be buying gold at half price. Something that if you're very sophisticated and willing to take added risk, you might look.
Now, as for the involvement we're seeing in the gold sector, I know you've stated in previous interviews that it seems like this is more in the futures market right now, not necessarily in the retail sector. I know here at Miles Franklin, at least as myself as a broker, we haven't been seeing a whole lot of demand. I mean, obviously, over the last couple of weeks, I think it has increased slightly. We're seeing a little bit of premiums here and there creep up a bit, but it's nothing dramatic. So your perspective on that, where is all this demand actually coming from?
It is the paper market primarily. I mean, the wholesalers, for the most part, are, excuse the expression, up to their gills in metal. And a lot of these, bigger outfits use the carry trade. So in other words, they are actually financing the dollars from the bank to buy the metal or buy it back. Let's say, they have to make a two-way market. And so they have to borrow pick a number, 5%. I don't know. It depends on their credit line, depends how long they've been in business. But it's a cost. So the longer that the market stays slow on the actual physical retail market, the more carry costs they have to endure. So this motivates them to, try to mitigate that problem. So yeah, it is unfortunate that it's not, driven by physical demand like it was, early days. I don't have time to listen to all of Andy Schechtman's interviews, but I remember when the retail market was so hot and the premiums on the Silver Eagles were extraordinarily high, and I was trying to hint, and I'm free market. You're going to pay $10, $15 premium for a coin that's, $20 or $22. I mean, that's like a 50% premium. I mean, if you want to do it, that doesn't make good logic to me. But regardless, the point I'm making is that hot retail side has subsided. And that's not good for the market. There's several aspects of the silver market, but I try to define it as the silver market is defined by paper, and the paper contracts are for 1,000-ounce commercial bars. Is the retail silver demand important? You bet it is, but it's really not the best guidance for the silver market. I mean, if you look at guidance on the silver market, you look at the silver bar market, and if the silver retail market is so hot that more commercial bars are going to the mints, because they do. I mean, I've been through the Sunshine Mint top to bottom, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And, you see these huge pallets of commercial bars. And what do they do with them? They turn them into 1-ounce coins. That's what they do. And so, but that's the silver market. I mean, what I'm trying to express here is that you could see a very hot retail market and make the mistake that the silver market in total is extremely hot. And that's really not the case. And I try to, I'm not trying to split hairs. I'm just trying to give some calmness and some perspective and a lot of experience to those out there that get hung up on a part of the market, believing that's the total market when it is not. I hope I made sense there, because it's important to know and to try to not get too wrapped up or too excited in an aspect of a certain market and then maybe make a poor decision.
And as we then enter the rest of the year, where do you see precious metals heading? Because as you mentioned, there's only interest in a sector of the market right now. We aren't seeing huge demand on the retail side. So do you see that changing? Any events you're looking for that could drive metals higher. I know we had the Fed meeting this week. They said they're holding interest rates steady, probably about 3 cuts coming this year, but probably that those cuts are already being priced in at the moment.
Yeah, I see it higher, higher, and higher. So let me say it higher, lower, higher, meaning we probably will see the silver and gold doldrums in the summertime, where there's not much interest in the metals markets. Again, that's a probability. It's a high probability, not guaranteed. But there's so much going on. It's status quo, and nothing changes from where it is now. You're borrowing, $1 trillion at the clip that the U.S. is borrowing at. The war situation's no better or no worse. The geopolitical infighting between people that are coming to the fore that are populist versus people that are more authoritarian. I mean, everything that's as it is now doesn't change. It just remains the same. You're going to see higher prices. There's just too much going on in these markets that give people the uncertainty of what is their currency going to be worth in the future. And especially if you go into the third world, where you look at, Vietnam Vietnam is not a really good example as far as population size, but they are looking at food prices that are going up at such a large clip that they do spend basically whatever they make, that week. I mean, it's pushing toward a hyperinflationary environment. And that's not just Vietnam. There are other smaller countries in the world that have faced that problem. So in those countries, they don't know the difference between the silver market and the silver retail market. They don't care. All they care about is that's a way to protect themselves. And so they may pay a high premium and not worry about it too much, because in their currency, it's going to be higher no matter what. And that's kind of the situation that we as precious metals investors have to our advantage. Not that I'm pro-inflation. I'm dead set against inflation. But the idea is that this time it'll be a global market. So it'll be more than just a United States inflation problem. It'll be a global problem. And is inflation under control? Well, of course, the Fed's going to say it is. But in reality, it isn't. And that's why they keep delaying these interest rate cuts. And once the interest rate cuts take place, the signal to those that understand how money works, how the global cash flows operate, and what the U.S. is really signaling, they're throwing in the white towel and they're saying, we're done. We are going to cut interest rates, and we don't care what happens to the dollar anymore. And that's a cue for it to be inflated away into a hyperinflationary environment. Will that happen? Absolutely not. Or I'll say absolutely not. I'll be that bold, because there'll be a new system right around the corner. So when these currencies fail, they fail, but then they reset and restart, and they have it usually gold-backed. I don't think they'll attempt a gold-backed digital currency initially. I think they'll try just to push over the system into a new realm where you exchange old for new, and there's no cash, and you go into a computer form or digital form only, and you got to get verified that you're you, and who knows what's going to go on. It's been cited by many people other than myself, but it'll probably be more Orwellian than you care to imagine. So the dollar won't be worth zero. It'll be worth, 0.07 cents. Who knows what it'll get to. But it will be an excuse for it to be a new system. And that's what, especially the Christian community, among others. I mean, you're not to be a Christian, but the Christian community certainly has looked at this for years as far as the mark of the beast and what does it look like and what are we going to have to do and how will we know, and all those questions that come to the fore as we're getting near the end of this great Keynesian experiment that always fails. So I probably went on too far, but I'll tell you, it's a point in time that's very extremely interesting to live in. And also people like you and I that have basically raised our voices against the tyranny to say, look, the people really get to decide what money is. People need to be free. And if you have a system that dictates everything you think, do, and say, and you're scared to speak the truth, then you're in very interesting times. And to do my favorite quote, speaking the truth in times of universal deceit is a revolutionary act. So thanks for being with the revolution for so long, Elijah. I appreciate it.
Same to you there. Now, I did want to then kind of hone in on that topic of freedom, right? And how precious metals gives you that. I think it's especially these times when we're having news about the election and we're looking at what the Fed is doing, we can sometimes get caught in the weeds, right, regarding things that we have no control over. But when we can actually take control of our finances ourselves, that's an important thing, because we're concentrating on what we can take control over, and we're moving towards being more free in that sense.
Yeah, it's a priceless gift. I mean, it's something that's not very common in the world history. I mean, there's been so many authoritarian type of governments that really put a lot of control over the people. You know, you can get into dictatorships, you can get into kingships, you can get into all kinds of things. And it's really more of a belief system. Of course, if you have the power of a gun, then of course you're able to enact that authority, because if you don't stay in line, you've got a price to pay. It could be your life in some instances. So it's very sad, in my view, as far as, you know, we're supposed to be human beings. We're supposed to be humane. I mean, most religions say thou shalt not kill. And you take that to the extreme, it's not only kill each other, which happens all the time, but even maybe killing animals. I mean, you could go that far and at least question whether that's what it means. I'm not a vegan, but I just want to point out that, you know, the rule books are pretty clear and pretty awesome, in my opinion, but we don't follow them. So what good are they? It's like mandating certain things that might be for the public health, but if no one does it, or they don't implement what they say they're going to do. I mean, look at the Clean Water Act, for example. Sorry, I'm on a tangent. I'm going to stay here for a second. You have a Clean Water Act, so everyone in the United States is guaranteed clean water, and then fracking starts to take place. Well, we are going to eliminate the Clean Water Act in areas of fracking, because just in the off chance that there's a 0.01% chance that fracking is going to pollute the water, we don't want to get sued. We're not going to be liable for it. And it was a much greater percentage than the one I cited. But you get the idea. Universal deceit. I mean, you are being told one thing and the actions are almost the exact opposite. And this is the world we live in. So, you know, deal with it. I mean, the best way to do your best life is to control what you can. So is every alternative media source 100% truthful? No, I don't think any of them are 100%. I think we get it wrong occasionally, but we do our best to be truthful. If I'm wrong and find it, I usually admit it and make a correction and tell everyone that's followed my podcast or whatever it is. But the point is, it's a time of self-responsibility more than ever. And that's why I'm such a silver nut, because it was the one chance for the people to take back the money power, because the banks don't control silver to a large degree. I mean, you have the bullion banks that do, but the general banking system at large doesn't control like they do in the gold market. So if enough people took silver in their own possession, then you would have a situation of probably the second most important element on the planet outside of oil would be silver, and we would have that power and maybe be able to negotiate some type of freedom, or at least perhaps get into a John Galt situation or whatever. So I'm off on a limb. I'll come back. You can bring me back. But it's upsetting to me that I think we worked pretty hard to try to bring at least the thought process to others of what they can control. And yet everyone seems to be much more inspired by some scam in a cryptocurrency they are in sound money that's existed for so long and proven how anonymous it is, how peer-to-peer it is, how quiet it is, and how worthwhile it is. And yet my own niece got on the phone with me or text, and she got into one of these crypto scams, and she's gotten in pretty far, and she wanted to know, should she give them her phone number? Absolutely not. You know, in other words, I shouldn't say phone number, access to her phone. And I said, no, they're going to hijack it, and they're going to use your identity and everything else. And again, reel me in, but it just upsets me that we have a solution, or at least a partial solution. And yet, and you speak for yourself, you know me for years. I mean, you've been in the fight for a long time. And you know, I was probably your age when I started, but didn't have a platform. And, you know, I was writing letters and dropping in mailboxes. But the point I'm making is, how much progress do you think we've made on this journey of ours to try to bring the truth and the money powers to at least be questioned by the general population?
I do see a lot more interest in precious metals these days than I saw, years ago. So I think that's definitely a positive move forward there. I did want to ask you, you mentioned like the cryptocurrency scam, and it seems like a lot of people are getting involved in assets that might not be as secure as they thought they would, or they might be overvalued, right? We've been seeing, we saw the COVID crash in the stock market, and a lot of people got concerned, but it seems like people are jumping back on the bandwagon of the stock market hitting all-time highs, continuing to hit all-time highs, it seems like every day. So as we look at these different markets, what do you see going into the end of the year? Do you see a lot of people have been projecting a melt up and then a final crash? Are you concerned right now regarding the valuations of the stock market?
Very much so, but I've changed my opinion somewhat. Going back a couple of years ago, I would pretty much guarantee you're going to get a correction and a large one at some point. I still think that's the greater possibility, but if you look at a true inflationary environment like, the Weimar or Venezuela or Zimbabwe or Argentina or any of these countries, the stock market just goes up and up and up and up until they reset. And so I don't rule that out entirely anymore. I used to say in advanced capital systems, the bond market was kind of governor in the whole system. So the debt markets would control with interest rates how valuable the money would be over time value of money. And that's kind of what Powell's trying to do now. But I think it's a little bit, too little, too late. I mean, if they throw in the towel, as I said earlier, the whole world knows how money works, that it's going to, I wouldn't say hyper-inflate, but they're going the inflation route where they don't care about the value of the currency. On the other hand, if they stayed the course, maybe even raise interest rates more, then you start losing the value of the bond market, which is what runs everything. So bonds will have to be marked to market. And that means you're going to take a lot of money out of the market, because a bond that says $1,000 face value has to be marked to market. And at current interest rates, that would be at 800, 700, 600, 500 in some cases. So that would probably be the most morally correct way to go about the problem. But I don't think that's the case. All the studies that have been done is anytime you don't have a guarantee of a backed currency, a gold or silver or both standard, that was the policeman on the currency that guarantees the value of it, it goes into an inflationary environment until the new system is initiated. So that's what I see. I see a new system being initiated. Will it be this year? No. Could be it could be as early as 2025. Back to the crypto thing. I mean, you've got your FTXs and all these things that have happened, and yet people still participate because they're not all scams, but a lot of them have no backing. So why would you be in a certain a certain crypto, when it's based on nothing but a software algorithm, and yet people do it? And I get it. One is it's an alternative and it's not government. Two, other people buy it and push the price or the value higher. So why not? It's beating what my currency is doing in my country. But then you even have these exchanges that fail. I mean, you look way back at Mt. Gox, for example. I have one of my members write me, and I forget how many he had, but it wasn't a small amount, like 50 full Bitcoin. And then when Mt. Gox failed, he's getting like 1 of 50 back. I mean, it's pretty pathetic. So the free market, you want to play the crypto game, go ahead. I think asset-backed cryptocurrencies are the way to go if you're going to play that game, but that's my personal prejudice. So.
And if our viewers are interested in learning more about your work, I know you're coming out with a documentary called Silver Sunrise. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's the documentary about the stress of money. Most people really do stress about money, especially in these type of environments where they're taking 2 jobs on, the inflation's getting away from them. They just can't seem to make ends meet, and paying the bills, and then everything goes up in price. So it's about that and overcoming it. I really want to focus on the solutions. And I have several that are based on possibilities of the future. The one I'm putting in the film primarily is energy. If we had lower cost energy for everybody, that would really be helpful to make everyone's life better. Another one is just the honesty in the system, and what a dollar is going to be worth at any time in the future. And the last one I do is on a spiritual basis, that as purportedly Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that started the problem. So if we get out of the scarcity mentality and think that the reason this is so costly is because it's rare, we're running out of it. I'm not saying we're not. I'm just explaining part of the film. And that is more of a abundance philosophy, that the universe is infinite. We are creatures that were created by a higher power, and that we have the ability to bring into reality whatever we really need. That kind of an attitude. So a different consciousness, that I don't have to hoard stuff because there's plenty for everybody, instead of we're running out of this, that, and the other thing. So there's a lot to the film that I want to get in there. It's a little different take, let's say, than some of the, movies that deal with, the margin call and the great, short. It's The Great Short. I can't remember the right name, but The Big Short and all this stuff, because the problem has been talked about ad infinitum. And you and I talk about it, and it's worth talking about. It's worth people understanding it. But if we can't really propose a good solution or solutions, then we're only, probably adding to the side of the fear, or we should add to the side of possibilities. What else is possible? What kind of life can we have for our kids and our grandkids and that type of thing? So there's a lot there, and script is done, starting to get some of the interviews done, and it's exciting. It's a much bigger project than any of the books I've written. Books are pretty easy. They're hard, but they're easy compared to a movie. But I'm having fun doing it.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to that. If our viewers are interested in looking at any of your current work, they can go to themorganreport.com. And yeah, David, thank you so much for your time today. Any last thoughts before we let you go?
No, I just enjoy your interviews. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials from March 18th through March 25th, 2024, while supplies last. First, we feature 2023 1-ounce Silver Krugerrands at $3.10 over spot. We also have backdated 1/10-ounce gold Canadian maples at $35 over melt with a minimum order of 4. And finally, we're offering our choice 1-ounce Palladium bars at just $119 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.